you today, mindful eating. It will help you get over that weight loss hump. Listen in. Yeah, everybody, it's Aida Ingram, and I want to talk to you today about something we don't talk about enough, which is mindful eating. And what mindful eating is quite simply really thinking about what you eat before you eat it. So I will tell you why mindful eating is so important for people like you and me. It's because normally people consume way more calories than they realize, and that's why we usually have this excess weight gain. So mindful eating is a way to make you accountable for your eating choices, and also to help you make better ones when things that you hadn't even thought about all of a sudden become really clear. For instance, a lot of us will eat in one sitting what we should eat almost in a whole day. And it's very easy to do because a lot of the things we have a lot of sugar, have a lot of fat, have a lot of additives, which we really don't need. But until you look at the label, you really don't pay attention. So let's talk about mindful eating in a way that really makes sense and brings it home. So this is what it looks like. Mindful eating is, I want you to take a real close look at everything you think about putting in your mouth and everything you do put in your mouth. So from your beverages to your desserts to your actual meal choices, give some real thought. And this is how it looks on a daily basis. Normally, I do espresso from Starbucks. So one of the things I made a conscious choice to do because I didn't like the way my body was behaving, and I started to see some things I didn't like I wasn't really sleeping soundly. So I made some choices, which is, you know what, it's probably a good time for me to switch from coffee to tea or from espresso to tea, which is what I did. So I looked at the options they had available, and I got a really big cup of tea. I really like tea. Tea is good for me. I'm really starting to implement more of it because it's a healthier choice. But even with tea, there are a lot of different decisions that I had to make about whether or not I was going to allow it to be as it was, which is not add anything to it, or whether or not I was going to add things to it that would potentially increase the number of calories, and also how I felt, and also my calorie count for the day. So I consciously decided that I would have sugar in this because I never had the tea and I didn't know what it tastes like. But usually I buy tea that you don't have to add sugar to. But even with sugar, I have to ask myself, am I going to have honey? Am I going to have actual sugar? Am I going to have sugar in the raw? The choice that I made was something in between, which is sugar in the raw, because it's not as bad as refined sugar, but it's also different than honey. So I wanted to try it, but then I had to decide how many sugar packets am I going to have? Am I going to have 3? Am I going to have 1? Am I going to have none? I decided on 2, but next time I may decide on none. So I want you to make choices like that. Like, I'm going to have this, but what other things am I going to do that go along with that? Let's talk about another area that kind of always gets us in trouble. Let's talk about salads. And this is another example of mindful eating. Salads are great choices, and a lot of us, it's our go-to, which is cool, except for one thing. We tend to get these wonderful salads with great things in them, healthy choices, beans and seeds and all of this great stuff, and then we kind of have a really big breakdown when it comes to salad dressings. So what it looks like is, for you to look at mindful eating, it looks like, let me take a look at the salad dressing container. And even if you go to a fast food restaurant, they will often have these available for you to take a look at them. And I'm asking you during this mindful eating challenge to make sure that you do that. One of the most shocking things I've had is not only are these sometimes huge calorie killers, but a lot of times what you'll find is that they have a lot of fat, and a big shocker for me was a lot of them have sodium. So I had gotten a really good choice, so I thought, in terms of calories, of a great salad dressing, because it was only 70 calories per serving, which was awesome, except my husband pointed out that the sodium on it was 580 milligrams, which is huge. That's like what a prepared meal we usually have. So it's all of these things put together. The other thing is portion size. And this is my lunch today, and I decided I was going to have some meat. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. This is portion size. This is a really small chicken thigh. It's not big. You know, I can eat it. That's probably maybe 200 calories max. I wanted to have some protein. But I want you to do the same thing. Take a look at what you're eating. How big is it? Do you need something that's really that big? Can you eat some now and eat some later? What can you do to give it a boost? Or what can you do to make a better choice? So, for instance, I gave you the example with the tea, but I'll give you another example that would be good. For instance, on my salad, I could choose to add something like flaxseed, or I can choose to add something like extra vegetables to give it a much heavier, better, more fiber option than I would if I just didn't have those things. And the third thing is looking at things like sodium, sugar, look at fat. You know, all of those things are great things to look at whenever you're looking at a label. Are there some, you know, I'm not eating that options. For us in my household, we don't eat high fructose corn syrup in anything as much as we can. So I'm like really always looking at the labels to make sure that nothing we have has high fructose corn syrup in it. So, you know, those are some things that you might want to do. You should write a list of the things that you definitely don't want to have in your food, and then when you start to see them, you start to see that brands actually put them in the food, then choose not to buy them. Look for alternatives and that kind of stuff. So our mindful eating challenge is just this. I want you to make a decision to be mindful about what you eat before you eat it, and even ask yourself the question, do I really need this much? Do I really eat this now, and am I eating it because I'm hungry? So those are the things I want you to look at. Your actual choices, what's in them, do you need to eat as much, and are you doing some emotional eating? Because that is always a problem that a lot of people run into, and I'm sure you run into it as well. So that is your mindful eating challenge. I encourage you to join us and tell me about your findings. Do you feel like, oh my gosh, I was so surprised? Or did you like, wow, okay, I realized that I could probably do a couple things differently. This is not to beat anybody up. This is total awareness, because sometimes you don't know what you don't know. I eat Ingram with Girlfriends with Goals. Enjoy. Can't wait to hear your results. Share, share, share. Take care and God bless.